Hello and welcome to the Fandoms podcast with your host Joe and the Doovers who gave us unique buttons to press, Tom, following me, and welcome to 2024. How are we doing, Joe?
Happy New Year!
Yeah.
My goodness.
So, what have we been playing? What have we been watching recently?
Well, watching is Percy Jackson. Oh my god, I love it. It's fantastic. Very true to the books. I don't know if you agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's only a few things that they've sort of adjusted slightly. But I've seen sort of explanations and I can kind of see why. So even with that, I'm really happy with it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. In terms of playing though, I've been going back to some old games. The Division, Armored Warfare. I've been playing a little bit of Transport Fever 2 again.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I've also been watching Percy Jackson. Reacher finished last Friday from when we're recording.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, the Friday just gone. So that's all wrapped up. Very good, as always. For the last week, I've been binge watching Better Call Saul, which is obviously from Breaking Bad. It's kind of the prequel, how Saul kind of went into. Because I haven't actually watched Breaking Bad.
Okay.
I thought, well, it looks interesting, so I'll do it. And it's got me interested enough to actually watch Breaking Bad now. So I kind of have the context for Saul and Mike and Gus and the Salamancas and yeah. As for what I've been playing a lot.
Okay.
World of Warships, I've been playing. So, I've also been playing Wargaming's new game, Closed Alpha, Project CW.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, you can register for the alpha right now, by the way. It took me a few hours.
Okay.
It's not really World of Tanks. It's... How I would describe it is something like a hero shooter. I know that might have a negative connotation, but think of it as each tank has an agent, which that tank and agent has a specialization, abilities, each one, essentially. I don't think Wargaming are trying to take away with the World of Tanks player base. I think they're trying to accommodate to a new audience rather than that, because otherwise there wouldn't be any point. I think this is them trying to maybe do a War Thunder almost, because I heard that they're trying to do a combined of air and tank.
Okay.
But the pre-alpha is just tanks at the moment. Yeah. And in PvP, I'm getting my arse handed to me.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. I would say I'm enjoying it. I'm also... what else am I playing? I bought Power World yesterday.
Okay.
Time of recording.
I'm really tempted to get that.
I noticed it was on your wish list. I know the last time we talked about it, you weren't sure about it, but... Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of bits on it now, and I'm a bit like, should I jump in?
Yeah. So that's my kind of collection of what I've been playing and watching. Right, so let's get into it for today. So what the podcast is about. If this is your first time listening to Fandoms, we're discussing all the different fandoms from gaming, Star Wars and beyond. And what we're discussing today is the latest gaming releases. A bit of Star Wars. A bit of the developer direct as well from Xbox, which came from Thursday, as well as some other announcements. Some Warhammer and the potential downfall of Forza Motorsport. I'll get into that later. I want to start you off, as always, with the gaming releases. So, there isn't many this month.
Oh.
So, as usual, they won't be everyone. But there will be the vast majority, the most popular ones that are coming out. So on the 18th of January, we've had Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, that's coming out on all platforms from Ubisoft. Then we're on the 19th of January, we've got The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for PlayStation. And we also have Pal World on PC and Xbox. Now, I've just mentioned that. So Pal World is it's a survival crafting game with monsters that you can tame and capture, like in Pokemon, but America edition, as loads of people like to see. Basically with guns.
It's very clearly a Pokemon clone with guns.
Yeah.
Which I don't hate the idea of.
As I said, I bought it yesterday. I played maybe an hour, just over an hour today. So I'm very, very new into it, but it doesn't feel like Pokemon.
Okay.
I don't think it's a Pokemon clone, and the reason why I say this, and this is more of the words that I agree with. One of my friends who's really really into Pokemon, this is more his words, but I do agree with what he says, and he said that they have used the same language as all the design concept principles as Pokemon. And they've just done it so well that it looks exactly... I mean, if I was to present one of the pals to you on its own without saying where it's from, you would probably assume it's from Pokemon. Because that was my reaction. I was like, wait a minute. This looks like it's coming from Pokemon, but it's not.
I've certainly seen a few in like screenshots and stuff that look like they could have been taken right out.
Despite the Pokemon player base saying it's a bit lazy, I think they've just... I think it's borderline. Is it copying? No, because Pokemon isn't the only monster hunting or taming there is. In terms, they don't own it. It's just the most popular one. I mean, there's things like Digimon and other franchises out there as well.
Do you mean Digimon?
What did I say?
Digimon.
I was
they're
close.
Not digging.
Yeah, I was close. Yeah, I'm not.
But I was going to say, I feel like Pokemon does have a monopoly on that kind of gameplay idea, IP type thing. I know Digimon. I don't think Digimon is really a thing anymore. I mean, I could be wrong. There's probably someone out there who's a massive Digimon fan who's going to eat me alive for saying that. But I certainly don't hear about it anymore. I mean, you have Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh is quite different because it's more hard game than monster taming, if you like. Yeah. I think it is interesting to see another game.
It's more like Ark than anything because it's a survival game. You have to take care of your own health, hunger, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And you've got to take care and there's base building, and you've got to take care of your pals' hunger as well, and their welfare and stuff, and they can help you craft stuff, and because each pal has a sort of set number of skills that it can do. So some can help you mine, for example, stone. Some others can help you craft something. If you've set something to craft, they will automatically, as long as they've been assigned to your base, they can kind of do that. But I think it's quite different. I don't think it is a Pokemon clone. As I said, they're using the same design principles so well to the point where it looks like it belongs in Pokemon, but it's not quite. And yeah, that's what I think about that. So that's out on PC Game Pass. On Xbox, you can actually get it on the preview, the Xbox preview. And 24 hours in, 2 million copies sold.
Wow.
2 million. It's topped the Steam charts completely. It topped the wishlist charts before it launched, and then it's completely blown away the concurrent players. It had 1 million concurrent players at one point. That's 1 million people playing that game at the same time.
That is astonishing.
That is crazy.
Wow. I mean, well done to the guys that, the guys behind Power World.
Pocket Pair, I think they're called. Yeah.
That's
from something that I thought was going to be a Pokemon ripoff, which everyone thought when you originally see the very first trailer from a few years ago. But yeah, people liking it. On to the last or the last couple of game releases for this month. 26th of January is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. That's on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. And then you've got Tekken 8 on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation as well. And that's real weird because it's January and really games don't really release at the start of the year.
I guess people take time off over Christmas. It makes sense that it's going to be a quieter time of year. So
yeah, right.
Fair enough.
So you want to talk about some Star Wars stuff, don't you?
Always. I always want to discuss Star Wars. But we do have some news from the world of Star Wars. Disney, Lucasfilm putting out some articles. That's the word I'm looking for. There has been confirmed a Grogu and the Mandalorian film that they are working on. I think it's supposed to go into production next year.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I think so.
And this one is going to be headed up by Jon Favreau.
Wait, no. The production's meant to start this year.
Oh, is it this year?
Yeah. I think it's meant to be 2024 production this year. And then probably it's going to come out next year or the year after, I suppose.
Oh, okay. Well, my timeline was ever so slightly off then.
Yeah.
Maybe that I saw it before Christmas and that was referring to...
Because I swear I remember seeing a 2024 of something to do with that news.
The point is, it's going into production soon. Which is very exciting. I think I've heard some... I don't know if this is true, but I've heard some rumors this might be replacing the next season of The Mandalorian.
See, I heard something slightly differently. Because I heard there might be a consideration of there might be another season of Mandalorian and then the film comes out.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know which one's going to be true. I just read about it.
If it did replace the next season, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
They've had 3 seasons to build up these characters, to establish them, establish their backstory, their goals and their relationship. Yeah. Going into a movie at this point, I think would be fine because they've not got to do all that setup. We already know the characters, we're already familiar with them. They can just focus on telling an adventure with the 2 of them and obviously whoever else is involved in that. Yeah. I think a movie would be quite good. I'd like to see those 2 on the big screen. Obviously, I know we're going to get Dave's film that's going to wrap up the Mandoverse eventually. I want that to be quite a few years away yet because I'm not ready for that whole sort of saga to end. But I'd like to see these 2 on the big screen. I think they deserve to have a 2-hour film to let them kind of expand or spread their wings a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm really excited by the idea. I'm glad that they're starting production soon, whether it is this year or next year. I think you're right, it might be this year. I may be misremembering when I read it. Really excited. I mean, what did you think about that, first of all?
I think that's a good idea. I mean, there's not much information to go by to get any sort of thoughts on it, really. I mean, it's good. It's different because it means we get to go to the cinema to see Din Djarin instead of our home screen, whether that's a TV or your own monitor or whatever. You watch
father-son duo.
Whatever you watch Disney Plus on. So it's going to be a almost different vibe, almost because it's a film.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I like the idea. I almost prefer TV series at the moment. The reason being is because they go on for longer than a film.
Yeah.
And I always like something never, ever to end.
No, I agree with you on that as well.
But I'm not against film either because it can be placed in... I mean, that's where Star Wars was founded on, a film. So it's good to kind of see it in its film format. The fact that it's gone from a TV series, it's almost like an upgrade. Or almost. I think that's the perception anyway. TV series kind of sits below a film, really, I think, in perspective of everything. I would say nowadays probably not so much. They're fairly equal. But if we're talking maybe 5-10 years ago, films are probably bigger than a TV series would be, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, I'm happy to have a look at them on the big screen.
Yeah. Something you said there just made me think. I wonder if it'll be a different pace being on film as well.
Mm.
Because obviously, as you say, like with a TV series, it goes on for longer.
Yeah.
They can obviously spread it out over a couple of weeks. Even if it's like a 45-minute episode each, if you're doing an 8-episode series, you're still getting more than you would get on a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
And obviously that plays into the pacing. There's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Not filler, but sort of drawn out sequences, aren't there?
Yeah.
Where they might be travelling or whatever. A lot of that gets cut out in films, so I wonder if that will change the pacing a little bit, change the feeling of the two. I'm excited to see what comes out of it, because I believe that under Jon Favreau, and I'm sure that Dave will be involved still, Dave Filoni. I know the two of them know the material well. They are excellent custodians of it. I'm sure they will do something great. They constantly are putting out good Star Wars content at the moment. I just wonder how that will feel in comparison to the series so far.
Yeah.
There is another little rumour that is floating. I don't think anything has been confirmed at this stage, but the rumours are becoming a lot more frequent, and people that are reporting on rumours are finding there's a little more weight to it at the moment.
Yeah.
There is a rumoured Star Wars What If series. So for those of you that may not be familiar, what rock have you been living under? What If is a series put out by the Marvel team, exploring different stories throughout the multiverse. So it's minor or major changes that change the narrative or change characters around or their involvement in certain events within sort of
For example,
timeline.
Captain Carter instead of Steve Rogers.
Yeah, so Captain Carter was the one that got the Super Soldier Serum and became the Super Soldier, I guess.
Yeah.
Captain Carter. And Steve Rogers did not become Captain America. He continued being the scrawny little kid that we all knew and loved. It's ideas like that changes the storyline around. There's a rumour that might happen with Star Wars. Whether it will be exactly the same or if it will explore some other things, we don't know at this stage. As I say, it's just a rumour. I don't know if you've heard anything different. I've not heard anything so far.
There's no official source. It's just some rumours wiring around. But it's the same. It's the topic that I brought up on the podcast before, where I've said I want a What If Star Wars because it'll be really good.
Yeah.
I know What If Star Wars has this quite unique animation style, and I quite like it. I mean, it could be. I mean, Disney could say, well, we could keep it the same and make it a more of a What If series rather than a Marvel series, potentially almost franchise it a little bit. But whatever direction they'll go, I think it will go animation regardless. I think it will be good. But the question is, what if would you like to see? Because there's so many possibilities. Many.
One that plays out in my mind, I think really comes from a meme that I've been seeing a lot recently.
Yeah.
Is the idea that Count Dooku basically gives away the clones. You know, like the clones are created by a Jedi who has gone missing many years ago. Dooku seems to know more about them than he should. He's letting in on things about like how a Dark Lord of the Sith is controlling the Republic. Like, the Jedi could have acted on these things straight away. What would have happened then? Would it have stopped the Clone Wars ever happening? Like, how would that shape the universe? That's a storyline I'd like to see explored.
That made me think. The way that they could do that is Obi-Wan could actually report that properly to the council. That's the instant thing that I thought there. But he
comes back and he goes, look, he's not to be trusted because he's a Sith Lord. But maybe we should take a little bit more attention on this.
The one that I'd like to see is if Five's fully reported the chip.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to see what would have happened.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Like I said, there's lots of events that happen in Star Wars that it would be interesting to see how it plays out if the coin was flipped.
Because I mean, the whole chip thing and Order 66 is the whole flipperoony major plot point, really, in how Star Wars flipped itself on its head. You know, from being, well,
actually, that's the point as well. Sorry. We all know about Order 66.
Yeah.
Obviously, the plan to kill the Jedi for turning on the Republic, basically. Lesser known is Order 65, which I don't know if you're familiar with.
I am not, actually. I'm assuming it's to do with one of the many, many books. Maybe. Is a reference in one of those?
I can't remember where it was referenced. Or if it might have actually just been a Fandom thing. But basically, Order 65 is the opposite to Order 66. So 66 was the turning on the Jedi for them taking over the Republic. Order 65 was the opposite. It turns on the Chancellor.
Ah.
So, it could be enacted by the Jedi Council.
Wait a
what
minute.
if I activate?
If that was the thing, why didn't they do that when they were going to arrest him anyway?
Exactly. The idea is that what if they had enacted Order 65? The Chancellor is no longer fit for office. We're going to have to forcibly remove him. Order 65 stops them listening to his plans, and they follow the Jedi leadership to arrest him and save the Republic.
To be fair, Mace Windu was like, I'm skeptical about this accusation, Anakin. I'm going to see if it pans out.
Yeah, so it probably wouldn't have been right for him to enact Order 65 there.
Yeah.
But theoretically it exists, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I'd like to see a what if of that, where they go, do you know what? Order 65, let's get him. How would that play out?
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's lots of plot points that they could explore, and I think it'd be interesting to see that. I'd like it to be in the same sort of animation style.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it, but I like what you said about what if being kind of a cross IP series in itself.
Yeah.
Touching on lots of different universes that Disney controls or has ownership of now.
Yeah.
And it just exploring different stories. I love the idea of that. I'd like to see more of that. What if is a great concept. Obviously, it works in the sort of the world of Marvel, because Marvel has the multiverse, and they have throughout the comics already built this idea of different universes with different, or the same characters but in a different way.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see that with other IPs, and I think it could be really interesting because, as we were saying there's lots of different ideas, certainly for Star Wars, that they could explore. You know, what would happen if this decision was made instead of that? Yeah, I think it'd be great. I'd love to see more of it. It's only a rumour, but I hope, keeping my fingers crossed, guys, I hope that they come back to that and they announce it sometime soon.
No. Right. Shall we move on?
Yes, go. Go for it.
Developer Direct from Xbox, which happens this month. And this was targeting 4 developers directly, so hence why it's called Developer Direct. So it was meant to be Obsidian Entertainment, Ninja Theory, Oxide, and Machine Games. So they started off with Obsidian Entertainment, which is on the new action RPG game Avowed. And so the developers essentially had their own kind of film made of them talking about the game, and part of that game was the combat. There's a lot of combination. There's spellcasting, there's melee, there's firearms, as in, when I mean firearms, I don't mean modern stuff. I mean like the old kind of pistols that you'd expect in Pirates of the Caribbean, for example.
Oh, like a flintlock pistol?
Yeah. Those sort of era,
cool.
sort of, and that's coming fall this year for Xbox and PC.
Okay.
Yeah, so they talked a little bit about that. It seemed interesting. It's a story-based game. If you're interested in it, I suggest maybe having a look at the developer direct, or specifically the gameplay that they unveiled there.
Yeah.
I only wrote down a few things for each of these, because there was one in particular that I was interested in overall. I think you know which one it will be, because I talked to you on your stream about it the other day.
I remember.
Yeah, but I'll get to that. The second developer was Ninja Theory, and this is for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, the sequel, which loads of people have been excited for, which is coming now, May 21st, 2024. There's an actual release date. I don't know if there was a release date previously, but now there's an official release date. And they kind of went through everything, including going through the motion capture and how the game plays a little bit differently from last time, in terms of the movement, how that Senua's movement is a little bit different with the motion capture, and it's a little bit more fluid. It's kind of round the Viking era as well, so they even went to they referenced saying about going to Iceland and getting some references, and you'll be able to see those kind of almost reference landscapes in it, but it will be completely overturned and completely changed into its sort of thing. So for those that are interested in that, yeah, there was essentially some more gameplay to look forward to, and you've got a date, which is the May 21st this year. I know that game's been circling for quite a while, so it's quite nice to see that it's got a release date. Now, we thought we were going to see the third developer, but they sneaked somebody else in. They sneaked in Square Enix. Now, I'm not familiar with this franchise, but apparently it's been not on Xbox at all, full stop. Visions of Mana. So the Mana series is now coming for its first Xbox release. It's a third-person action RPG, which is coming out in summer 2024. They talked about it going from drawing the sprites, going all the way up to its finished game completion, and other developer stuff, and the fact that they're excited that it's going to be its first Xbox release. So they kind of went through that as well. And then they went on to the fourth developer, Oxide. Now, Oxide are making Ara History Untold, which is a new strategy game like Civ 5. I think they've actually worked on Civ 5 as well before. So it's essentially like that. It has a living world, except... and what I mean by living world is your choices will actually affect it of what sort of leader you want to be, and the world will change accordingly this time. Instead of it more being static, I mean, you played Civ 5 and whatever, haven't you?
I've not actually.
Oh, have you not? I thought you would have played Civ.
No, again, I'm going to anger people by saying this. Civ has never really done anything for me.
Oh, okay.
I've seen bits and pieces on it. I've watched videos and streams, but it's just never been one of those games that I've wanted to pick up. Despite me liking a strategy game.
You know kind of how it plays then.
Oh yeah, I've certainly got an idea of
sort of the tiles and the fact that it's obviously turn based, and you've got it's almost, well, it's Earth really. It's the map. And you start with a specific leader from a specific country. And you go through and develop your stuff from really early on, from like horse and cart all the way up to developing nukes to the 21st century sort of thing. I know that's a very vast change, but that's kind of what you go through.
No, you go through the stages of progression.
Yeah. The world really doesn't change much. You build stuff, but things like that are untouched, like the grassy highlands or whatever it is, they don't tend to change. Yeah. Obviously, in this game, it's all going to be changing. And you win via a prestige. I mean, as I said, you decide which type of leader you want to be. There's no set victory conditions, which is usually the case for something like Civ. So usually there's a victory condition to win.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, being the most aggressive, taking over the most territory, that's one. There's a science win as well, but obviously the more aggressive aggro one requires you to cause wars left, right, and centre to take over people's countries, and all that kind of stuff. But what's different about this is it's not turn-based; it's simultaneous turns. And I think they'd really taken the genre to the next level. I'm not big on strategy games, as I've discussed previously, but I have played Civ 5 and Civ 6, and I do like it, and it takes your time away. It's almost like Monopoly, because it takes ages to finish a game, especially with other people. But seeing it with simultaneous turns actually interests me. And that's coming fall this year from Oxide. Now, the last developer was Machine Games. Machine Games, I think Bethesda own them, I think. Because this particular game franchise has Todd Howard as the executive producer of this project. Yes, it just works.
It just works.
That dude and the dude that told you if you can't run Starfield on your computer, get a new PC.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
I'm of course talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now,
I do remember telling me about this.
We knew there was an Indiana Jones game coming. We didn't know. I don't even think the developers was announced. We didn't know who was making it. We didn't know what it was going to be called. All we knew, there was going to be an Indiana Jones game coming to Xbox. And now we have some details. We have a trailer. And we have the timeline. And we have its name, which is called The Great Circle. And it's a first-person adventure game. So it's all single player. And what's really cool is they've made the character model look really like Harrison Ford. I don't know if have you seen the trailer?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, you're just gonna have to take my word for it then.
Alright, that's fine.
It does look like Harrison Ford. It does sound like Harrison Ford, but it's not Harrison Ford. Oh, who was it?
Okay.
Who's the voice? I can't remember his name now. But he voiced Joel in the Last of Us game. He's done quite a few big things. But the fact that he sounds like Harrison Ford, he looks like Harrison Ford, it's that authentic Indiana Jones experience that we're going to get. There's puzzles, there's hand-to-hand combat, there's whip combat, there's pistol combat, and that whip can be used as a tool. It can be used as a distraction and combat, which is really nice to see, because it wouldn't be Indiana Jones without his whip, would it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's known for using it to get out of a tight spot as well as to fight off the baddies and stuff. So that's perfect.
And there's all this almost dynamic stuff as well. They kind of touched on when they talked about it. They said that they wanted you to feel like you're Indiana Jones, hence why it's first person. But for traversing some environments, like if you're climbing up, I think they showed him climbing up a pipe, up a building, that will be in third person. I mean, we tend to see this in other games, really. It's mainly first person, but for some things, it goes into third person for some stuff. A lot of people are very unsure the fact that it's going to be a first person rather than third person. I get it. You want to see the classic indie silhouette. I get that. But the way that they're trying to get this is you're Indiana Jones. Being in that first person perspective. But you do get to see Indy in the cutscenes and in the sort of thing. And this is actually set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. So it's in his kind of the classic era that we would see Indy in his, I would say, youth.
In his prime.
Yeah, in his prime. And I mentioned earlier how there were some dynamic situations. For example, if there's I think they said something like if there was a shovel or an axe or something lying around in the environment, you could use that as a distraction or as a weapon to take out a guard or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But they want you to have the action element of it, but there's also the puzzles element. So a little bit like the Tomb Raider or Uncharted or whatever, which of course those two games are heavily inspired by Indiana Jones. So, yeah, that's coming for a 2024 release. It's coming this year for PC and Xbox. No official release date yet. And It does look really good. What do you think from what I've told you? I know you've not seen it.
Well, I think I might have said to you before, but I've never been big on Indiana Jones. I've seen a couple of the films, but it's never really sort of captured me like I know it does other people.
Yeah.
However, I must admit, it sounds quite good. I feel like I'm in the camp of thinking that first person is a bit weird. I get what you're saying about wanting the players to feel like they are indie.
Yeah.
But I don't see why I can't feel like that in third person. Because there's plenty of games that I play in third person and I still feel like the character.
Yeah. I get
and
that.
It may work better in reality, but in my head it seems weird that I'm going to be in first person, grab onto this pipe and suddenly the camera's going to pull out.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like that'd be more immersion breaking than just being in third person.
Yeah.
But like I say, it might work better when we actually see a bit more of it.
I know a lot of people are against
initially,
it. But
sort of my first thoughts on it is it seems a little bit of a strange decision. But like I say, I'm willing to be proven wrong. If it works, then it works.
Yeah, I mean, as I was just trying to say, like, it's although a lot of people find it weird, there's loads of first-person games that are story-based that work well. So I don't see why Indiana Jones isn't going to work well in first person.
Well, I mean, best example I can think of is Halo. I know it's a shooter, but obviously we're there to play through the story.
Yeah.
We play as the Master Chief and we feel like we are him.
Yeah.
And other than when you pick up a turret or jump in a vehicle, you are in first person the whole time. So it's not that it doesn't work, it just... Yeah, I don't know, I think I would prefer third person, but maybe that's just personal preference.
Now, that kind of concludes to the Developer Direct, but I did want to touch on two more announcements. So, the other week, a sequel was shadow dropped. I say shadow dropped. The announcement was shadow dropped. No one knew this was happening. And it's got me very excited. We've got a sequel to Prison Architect. Who saw that one coming? Prison Architect 2's coming March 26th.
Just kind of out of nowhere.
2024. It is coming out in 2 months. Wow. They made a developer kind of episode of a couple of days ago about how it came about on the Prison Architect's website. And Paradox actually approached them with it. And they said, do you want to make a sequel? What do you want to see? Send us some concept art and let's see what sort of direction you want to go. I didn't know this, but Prison Architect is actually made by British developers in Middlesbrough.
Oh.
I didn't realise it was British devs that did it. But hey, yay us, I suppose. It's interesting to see, all these studios around the world. Considering Prison Architect kind of perceives this more American prison, with the orange jumpsuits and the guard uniforms being a bit American, you might think, oh, is it an American company or an American studio doing it? No. It's us. Hi.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an American feel to it. But then I I wonder if that appeals to a wider audience.
I think it's more stereotypical, that sort of thing, isn't it? When you think prison, you think of the movies and think of the TV series, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, because I don't even know what our prisons are like over here.
No, I was going to say, I think our perception of it has been shaped by Hollywood.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, you're right. Those orange jumpsuits, that very American feel and vibe is probably what a lot of people associate with.
Yeah, the guards and the kind of navy blue, the cop uniform almost.
Yeah.
With the baton and stuff. Yeah. So Prison Architect 2 is going 3D. If you're familiar with Prison Architect, obviously it's top down, and obviously you're meant to be the architect for a prison, so it's got that artistic vibe to it. But they've gone full 3D, and that means it's had a particular perspective. It's from the trailer, it's looking good. It does look good. I know people have said it looked a bit too cartoony, but Prison Architect has always been cartoony. I think it looks more cartoony because all the characters and everything have gone all 3D, so it's a bit more, what's the word, noticeable, I would say. But I think one of the big changes or additions, which is really cool to see, is there are now going to be different floors. That's new, because obviously it's all on one top-down thing, which you couldn't do before. So now there's going to be stairs and other things of building it more in that 3D element of up, up, up. And I really want to go and play that in that perspective now, because it seems really cool to expand on it. I showed you the trailers, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yeah, and the 3D aspect and the multiple levels was something that I commented on when you showed me. Like, I've not played Prison Architect, but I've seen enough about it.
Yeah.
I've watched people play. I think I've watched you play it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm familiar with how it works, and to have, I guess, those extra levels by bringing it into the third dimension.
Yeah.
I think it's going to really change up the gameplay as well. Things that people are used to doing might not work as well, or you might be able to game it a little bit with an extra level. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and in their developer kind of thing, what they did mention was, or what I saw from the gameplay, it seems like you've got this slot in a city which you build upon. Now that might be, I mean, it mentions on the Steam page about a career mode, so it might be a bit more better, that career mode, but it seems like there's this more 3D city that you've been placed in, and you've got this set area where you get to build your sort of prison, but you get to expand the land, I'm assuming. I think I saw that in part of the gameplay, where you get to buy land, which was part of Prison Architect 1 as well. On one end, I'm worried that it might restrict the amount of area that we have, but I'm hoping, although it's putting it more realistically in that more realistic setting, instead of this just big top-down area that you have, and just green or whatever it is, whatever type of map it was, because you could select what type of map it was. So, for example, if it was a forestry sort of map, all green, it was just green Prison Architect 1. But this, you get to see the city in the distance, all 3D and stuff. So it feels real, and it feels like it fits inside of a city like it would do in real life. So there is that immersion factor, but I think they mentioned about the fact that there will be less prisoners for prisoner cells to house, but there might be more space to put them, potentially. I didn't quite wrap my head around on what they said in that video, but that was the sort of thing that they said. That might seem negative, but I suppose everything walking around now is a 3D model, and they've added hands now, and they're doing things, they're pressing buttons, they're, doing all these sort of stuff. The guards are loading firearms and all that kind of stuff, which is quite cool. Do you know what? It's quite cool to see Prison Architect expand into that 3D element. I'm quite excited to see it in March 26th. And despite it being acquired by Paramount, not Paramount, Paradox. That's the wrong studio, isn't it? It's a film TV studio. It's going to be $34.99, which you can order at the moment on Steam. So,
that's not. I mean, considering the price of some games these days, that's not too bad, really.
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of that price when it came out. I mean, I remember when Prison Architect wasn't Paradox. They didn't have the license for it. It was just indie devs.
Yeah.
But they've come a long way. It was funny because they released DLC for Prison Architect 1, or announced it and said, oh yeah, we're not done yet. We've got something more on the books. And then they go out and say, yeah, we've got a sequel now coming out in March. So, oh, that's what you've been cooking. I see.
It does seem to have come out of nowhere, but I'm always happy to see games.
Do you know what? I'm actually happy to see it shadow announced instead of rumors or sort of leaks or it's come from nowhere, and I like that sort of release.
They've really kept that locked down tight.
Just like this next game, GT Manager 2024. Now, for those that have played Motorsport Manager, was very popular on Steam, where you get to manage your own team for motorsports, strategy simulation, sort of game. I really love that game. Who are the developers for that again? I want to check on Steam now. I want to see who it is. Because how many hours I put in? 154. It's a lot of hours.
I imagine a lot.
Although it really sucked me in. Oh yeah, it was Play Sport Games. Sega published this. Now, in recent years, last couple of years, there's been F1 Manager, which specifically is on for F1. Not something I'm particularly interested in. I'm not a big F1 person. I'm more of a GT person. So when I saw GT Manager 2024, oh, hello. Because obviously in Motorsport Manager you actually could manage all sorts. You could manage the endurance hypercars, the GT cars, or the open wheelers, the F1 cars. But that was how sort of, I would say, vague they were. All it was an open wheel, a GT car, or a hypercar, which was quite generic. This is more targeting specifically, so the models are true to its sort of thing. So there are 30 officially licensed cars available for GT4, GT3, GT2, GTE, and hypercar. I know for some of you that means absolutely nothing. GT4, Ginetta, sometimes they've got a Porsche Cayman in there. GT3's like your Ferrari 488, your Porsche 911s, your McLaren 720Ss. Your GT2, GTE are just a little bit faster than your GT3 cars. There are still Porsches, BMWs, whatever in there. Then your hypercar, which is stereotypically Le Mans. The big downforce cars that you have on 24 Hours of Le Mans. Talking more of endurance, very relevant. Daytona is this month, 24 Hours, which involves these sort of cars, the sort of GT cars and the hypercars multi-class going around. So I'm quite excited for that as well. It's got no release date yet, but it's meant to be this year, hence the title 2024 GT Manager. Yeah. So it should be this kind of month. It's been made by the Tiny Digital Factory, which they've done I think they've done mobile games before, but this is coming on Steam, so I'm interested to see what it's going to be. You were going to ask me something?
No, I was going to say, try again. But they've not given a release date yet,
Yeah.
is a little bit concerning because they don't want to release it later on in the year. Because then everyone's going to go, well, why do I want GT Manager 24? This is almost 2025.
Yeah, I mean...
They want to get a wiggle on and give us a release date for that.
Not to mention, by the way, there are 30 officially licensed cars in this as well. So in Sega's Motorsport Manager, we had generic models that weren't really... that were their own thing. Almost like how Rockstar do...
So rather than the Ford, it's the Nord.
Yeah, sort of thing, yeah. But this time we've got officially licensed Porsche, BMW, whatever, for GT3, and all those sort of classes. So I'm glad there's now going to be an F1 manager and a GT manager. Obviously, this studio has only really done... They have done a GT manager before, but it was for mobile, I think in 2021. So I'm quite interested to see how they've progressed that for more of a... PC platform. I mean, it's quite. It's not too much of a jump because it's one of these management simulators. It's not like going to a full racing game per se.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not going to be the most intensive gameplay ever.
No, because it's you watching the cars go around the track where you probably manage strategy, build your own teams, go through seasons of races and stuff. But surprisingly, when I played Motorsport Manager, you know, it sucked me in really nicely. And to me, it was a really nice gameplay loop just to come back to, and just spend hours on. But yeah, GT Manager coming this year. Thought I'll just tag that and Prison Architect 2 on top of the Developer Direct for this month. And now I've waffled about new games coming again. You want to talk about Warhammer? Surprise, surprise. Who saw this one coming?
I know. I told you, it's becoming a staple of the podcast now. Tom, you'll be glad to know I don't have a Space Marine 2 rant lined up this month.
Listeners, viewers on YouTube, you've dodged a bullet there.
There's
don't need to listen to another one of those yet.
There's been no news on Space Marine 2. There's no new trailers. I've got nothing to have a rant about. I mean, I'm just double checking to see if they've given me a release date. But whilst that loads, there's no rant for Space Marine 2. So we can leave that one for this month.
Let it settle.
Next month I'm hoping we'll have.
You want one each month, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I've waited long enough for this, so I want to be able to have me rant.
Oh dear.
We have got a release date. It's 9th of September. I can't pre-order it yet. I'm very sad about that. Moving on. What we have got in Warhammer news is on the Friday just gone, which was the 19th of January. Sorry, my face is lit up like the sun. On the 19th of January, we had the Las Vegas Open, which is... Tom, for you and for anyone who's listening that's not a big Warhammer fan, the Las Vegas Open is a large tournament that basically anyone can attend and take part in. But as it's one of the big events in the Warhammer calendar, they also like to do some reveals there. Show us some new things, drum up some hype, because a lot of people are tuning in and watching. They stream a lot of the matches on Twitch and stuff like that.
Yeah, it came up on my feed today. I had a cheeky look for like 2 minutes. Because it doesn't really interest me, does Warhammer. But I thought, we're going to discuss this today. I'll have a little look. I didn't know what they were doing. They were doing the tabletop, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, that's the thing. People are playing basically all weekend. And yeah, I mean, there will be a winner announced from that and all that. I'm not interested in that. I'm not a tournament player. But I thought I'd talk about some of the reveals because there's some interesting stuff that they've announced. Certainly things in there that will interest people. So start off with, there is a new expansion for Kill Team. Kill Team is a small factor game. It's usually based around like a squad, and they operate as sort of individual agents taking out the other squad. So they've announced a new Kill Team Nightmare, which is going to be Mandrakes for the Dark Angels. For those of you Dark Angels players, you've got some new Mandrake characters, which, to be honest, having a quick look at them, they look pretty damn good. They were old models, so they were due an upgrade. So yeah, that's an exciting one for you guys. For Warcry, you've got the Fire and Flood expansion. I don't play Warcry, it's Age of Sigmar. I'm more of a 40k guy, so I don't know about that. But if you're interested in Warcry, go and check it out. There's a little bit there. You've got a new warband, I think they call them. From the Realm of Death, is what it says. Here's the one that I'm excited about. For Warhammer 40k, is the Kroot Hunting Pack. So, Tom, you probably are familiar that, at the very least, Warhammer is a grimdark setting. Everything is horrible and rough and dirty and just a little bit dark, right?
And if you play the games, blood everywhere.
Yes, yeah. Well, you have an empire called the Tau Empire, who are jokingly referred to as fish people because they're blue. However, the Tau's whole thing is advancement, which is like sacrilege in the rest of the setting, which is why Tau players sometimes get looked down upon by other players. But yeah, so they have these like really advanced armies, really advanced units. They're always pushing technology, so they look like something futuristic and sci-fi.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they do differently to other empires as well is they also believe in diplomacy. So one of the things that they had when they were first introduced was they have other races as part of their army. To sort of recognise this idea that they would try diplomacy and fold people into their empire first. And the Kroot was a big part of that. They removed the Kroot models, I think it was a few months ago. Might even be longer than that now. Again, they were very old models. They were definitely showing their age. You know, they looked old and very lesser detailed, let's say. So yeah, they got removed a while ago, and everyone was saying, well, Kroot was a big part of the Tau army. Like, people enjoyed playing this because it was something a little bit different about them. Where have they gone? When are we getting some new ones? Well, they've announced new Kroot models, and I've been having a look through, some of the images that they've released and the army box that they're going to be doing. They look incredible. Like, they're true to the original models, which, as I say, are quite old now. But they've got the detail that we expect from models produced today. We've got some new units in there. We've got some classic ones brought back. It's a really exciting time if you play Tau or if you're interested in Tau, because again, we're getting back a part of their army that hasn't really been given the love over the last few years. So really exciting one there. If you play Tau or if you're interested in picking up some Kroot, definitely keep an eye out for that because they are coming very soon. There's a new codex of the Tau coming as well. I think that's probably one of the next codexes coming. Going back to Age of Sigmar, we've got the Croneseer and Dawnbringers Book 5. This looks like a campaign book. They tend to bring these out for each of their game systems to bring out new mission types, introduce new rules, and sometimes introduce new models as well, give them special rules or whatever. Zondara's Grave Breakers, I don't know who they are. I'm not familiar with them. They look like zombies. Take from that what you will. And then finally, the next one that I was excited about is for the Horus Heresy. It's the Solar Auxilia. Tom, for your benefit, the Solar Auxilia are kind of, during the Horus Heresy, they are the elite regiment. They hail from Sol, from Earth, and they are pretty fancy, right? Pretty fancy guys. And they've got new infantry models coming. They've announced a couple of new tanks. I love the tanks. I think I'm probably going to get some of them. There's a new Sentinel Walker as well, which I think looks great. I've seen it referred to as a fridge on legs, which I don't disagree with. But I love the look of it. I think it's a fantastic design. It makes me want to get started in Horus Heresy. I'm getting drawn in. I'm getting very drawn in. I'm looking at the models. The tanks look fantastic. I'd love to do a tank army. But yeah, lots of announcements. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to go and take a look at the Warhammer community website. You can obviously see all the models there. I don't know if Tom, you might drop some images in from stuff we've been talking about. But yeah, definitely go and have a look through, guys. Obviously, get a bit more of a comprehensive look. You've got obviously the articles on each of the releases there as well. I think, as I say, I think the Horus Heresy stuff looks fantastic, and I think the group look amazing as well. I'm very tempted to start a Tau army. So yeah, exciting time for us Warhammer players. But yeah, that's my Warhammer update. I don't know anything about how the tournaments have gone over the weekend.
Yeah, you just mentioning Age of Sigmar just reminded me that was the tabletop that I tuned into at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was an Age of Sigmar tournament at the time. Again, I have no idea what they were doing with the the tabletop stuff.
Sigmar is more of the fantasy game, whereas 40k is the sort of the futuristic sci-fi. It's more science fiction, fantasy, really. But anyways, yeah, that's probably the main distinction between the two.
Okay. Right. Let's move on, shall we? Forza Motorsport.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Where do I start with this one? Ah, dear. Right.
You don't get my rant this week, but you get Tom's.
I've said Forza Motorsport is on the downfall, and that is kind of true. The community just don't like the game. If you look on the Steam store, it's mostly negative. Xbox store, mostly negative. People just don't like the game at all. And Turn 10, they need to do something, man. The Steam stats the other day, we talked about how there were 1 million concurrent players of Power World earlier.
Yeah.
But the other day when I looked, do you know how many there were for Forza Motorsport? I'm going to check now. Literally now. But can you have a guess?
I've got no idea, but I imagine nowhere near Power World.
It was like 600.
600 or 600,000?
600 players.
Jesus, that's a dead game.
Yeah.
That's an end of life game.
Right. Now, it's recently been the update. So they've added the Daytona track ready for the Daytona official 24-hour IRL. Now, there's been a virtual 24-hour actually during this weekend that we are recording as well. So that all the sim races have all kind of washed out, and I'm sleeping right now because they've 3 driver rotation over 24 hours.
Because they've been necking Red Bulls.
They've been sim racing for hours on end, on iRacing.
Necking Red Bulls to stay up. They've been jittering as they drive.
Yeah. So at the moment, currently, at the time of this recording, 907 for the 24-hour peak. Now, Forza Motorsport. Now, this is just Steam.
Oh.
This is just Steam. We can't really say anything about Xbox. Xbox is obviously the primary console platform that it's targeted at. PC hasn't done very well, mainly because, the performance on PC hasn't really improved greatly. The only time I play Forza Motorsport, by the way, is to record a B-roll for my YouTube channel when I'm covering the updates for the details. And when I was recording, the frame drops I was getting, it's still not improved. I don't have a bad computer either. It's quite good is my one, as you know. And it can basically run anything. Or it should be able to run anything, unless it's Forza Motorsport. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on, Turn 10? What's going on in that office of yours? They've had 6 years to make this game, by the way, since Forza Motorsport 7.
Yeah, it's not long enough. So, are you offended that I would suggest it's not long enough?
No, I just think they haven't used their time wisely. There are several concerns from the very old character vehicle models that have been ported over from Forza Motorsport 4, where they originated, and they've just whacked them across. See,
wow.
this is my biggest concern about Forza Motorsport. They've given us an expectation that makes us feel like it's a bigger game than it should be than it actually is, because they keep using this phrase, built from the ground up. Now, when I say built from the ground up, what do you think, Joe?
Well, I'd imagine that you get your engine of choice, you start designing models, you start designing your tracks, you build your physics, you basically start from nothing.
Yeah, and that's the phrase that they used throughout all the sort of excitement up to the launch of Forza Motorsport. When they were talking about stuff, they always threw in this marketing thing. It got memed, built from the ground up, blah, blah, blah. Now, from a marketing point of view, yes. If the product does well, that phrase is good.
Mm-hmm.
But because the product's done really badly... they've basically run over their own foot here because it's done badly and not everything has been built from the ground up and loads of things aren't really working. They made the expectation that it works flawlessly and is this next gen has this ultra quality to it, this really nice polish like we've never seen before in any video game. But it really not, and you can see by the Steam stats, 907 people from the last 24 hours have played. This is Forza we're talking about. This isn't an indie game. This isn't indie developers. This is a flagship Xbox title.
I was going to say, I remember, but whenever someone mentions Forza to me,
yeah,
I can't remember which one it was, but I remember one that released with the Xbox 360. And I, as you just said, I remember thinking, I always think that Forza is a flagship Xbox title.
Yeah.
It is one that they sold their Xbox with when the 360 came out. It's one that they push. It's one that they are heavily invested in, basically.
Yeah.
For it to have fallen so much, another way to look at it is, again, the one that came out on the 360, I remember that being referred to as a bit of a simulator itself.
Yeah.
For it to have fallen, so I've realised things have advanced since then, and we've obviously got much more simulatory games now, and that's fine. Forza has a gameplay loop, I guess you could call it, that worked for them, and obviously they're going to stick with that, which may be more arcadey now, but obviously at the time it was almost groundbreaking, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, for them to have fallen so far that, what is it, like months after release? I did bring it up.
Released in October, yeah.
So October, November, so 3 months on.
Yeah.
And it's an end of life game.
Yeah,
from concurrent players.
We're now out of what's called the honeymoon phase now.
Yeah.
Of the game, which just show its true colours. Assetto Corsa, which came out 10 years ago, has got thousands of concurrent players at the moment. Probably still. I haven't looked recently, but it probably will. That's 10 years old. People playing it a lot more than Forza Motorsport. Forza Motorsport was never meant to be the high-end simulator like Assetto Corsa. It was always, to me, meant to be that entry point into full-on sim for sim racing. Because it was built for the Xbox. It always has been. It's built for a controller and never really for a wheel. But I feel like for the first time, it's a shame. I feel that the wheel feels good. Yes, you've got to tweak. I've mentioned this before. You've got to tweak this, and this to get it to feel good. But once you've got the settings there, it does feel good in my comparison with my experience in Forza Motorsport 7, which I didn't play a lot of. But, there are concerns about the upgrade system, the car PG element, because nobody likes it. The fact that you've got to grind for each and every car. Obviously, we've extensively talked about this on the podcast before, but that's probably the biggest controversial point there is in its entire thing, because they've completely shifted the system from buying everything with credits. I know they wanted to push away from everybody buying upgrades and stuff like they normally do, but this new feature just has backfired. But there's also the concerns about the AI and the single player and the penalty systems, which actually make sure that... I mean, makes logical sense why people aren't playing the game. And this is what logically makes sense. The AI, in my opinion, doesn't feel like it's there. Like you, the player, are there. And they wipe you out. They cut you off. They don't give you space like you would do in a proper race. And because of that, it's not enjoyable, is racing against the AI. In fact, I would say Forza Motorsport is the worst AI in any racing game I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Ooh.
I don't like it.
That is a damning indictment.
Built from the ground up, my arse.
Yeah.
So
I know...
people don't want to play the single player, right? Then we move on to the multiplayer, where the penalty system doesn't work. What does that encourage?
Okay.
Dirty drivers. Which means the skill system, because obviously in multiplayer, you've got your skill level and your safety rating. And that's how you matchmake, and that's how you're matchmaked into lobbies.
Right. Yeah.
The clean drivers are going to start not playing, which means dirty drivers are going to be put in the same level as the people that maybe there's a very small fraction of players that want to stay clean, but that you get put more into the dirty driver levels, lobbies. And what does that mean? That means you don't want to play Forza anymore, or multiplayer, or single player. So there's this loop of, AI is rubbish, don't want to play single player. Single player wasn't structured very well. It's just whacking races within playlists, and it's just not enticing. It doesn't feel like you're a racing driver. You would have thought that the career mode would make you feel like you're immersed in as a driver for something. No, it doesn't do that. I know I was excited for it when it came out, honeymoon phase, and how they were marketing it. I blame the built from the ground up for this, really. But it is that kind of circle. Because the penalty system doesn't work, it encourages people being dirty, and the dirty drivers and the drivers that should be banned or whatever, or be penalised with how many seconds of penalisation to their time, just don't get penalised. And it just encourages bad driving. Forza's known for its bad driving, but they said, oh yeah, everything's been redone, built from the ground up. No.
Yeah.
It's kind of fallen flat on its face. I mean, there are some cool cars in there. There's some nice new endurance cars as well, and I like the pricing. I know I've discussed it before. The pricing of the cars is very, very good for what it is. Nothing goes into the millions and millions, but there are a very small amount of positive things to say about Forza Motorsport, and months on end. And again, you get frustrated at the AI in single player. You go to multiplayer. Power system doesn't work. Yeah, no. Then you've got Rivals, which is just time trials, and that's not everyone's cup of tea. So, you may as well just go to something else, like Assetto Corsa or Automobilista 2. It's not great. Turn 10, in my opinion, have this year to sort everything. Otherwise, it's going to go. I don't know what's going to happen to Forza Motorsport. I'm pretty sure Xbox knows how much it's fallen flat on its face. Forza Horizon, on the other hand, is still doing exceptionally well. It's consistently at the top for Steam concurrent players. It's always got updates coming out. It's a great open world. Obviously, it's not the simulation track racing, but that's just the way it is. I don't know if Turn 10 needs to have a complete shift in management, in game designers, or Xbox going to say, you've had your chance, we're moving you to another studio. I don't see them shutting down Forza Motorsport in its entirety. It's their flagship game. Their only track-based racer exclusive to Xbox PC. I don't see it happening. But something needs to change, and fast. They put out a community update the other week saying, we're focusing on some of the things that you're concerned about, like the car PG system for the upgrading your car, and the AI and the penalty system. But it goes all the way back to the marketing built from the ground up. They made it seem so promising and so next gen and so great. But it's just not what it seems. They made the AI seem so smart because they completely redid the system. But
I was just thinking, like, what you said there, sorry, about moving them to another team and whether they effectively give up on Forza as an IP. I don't think they will, because I think for them to lose Forza, or what I'm looking at is PlayStation still has Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll want to lose that race. Because ultimately what they're saying then is if you want as you describe it, a simcade racing game.
Yeah.
On the Xbox. Play on your console.
Yeah.
You have to go and buy a PlayStation then, because you're not going to get the same experience on the Xbox, because there won't be. I mean, Forza was always the direct competitor to Gran Turismo, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you remember when the new Gran Turismo came out. They did this whole thing about the new really clever AI for Gran Turismo, and it was really good. And I was thinking, oh, the new Forza is going to be on the same level, but it's completely just nope.
Well, that's what I mean though. Like, that's when you look at it, they are obviously the direct competitors to each other. Xbox and PlayStation, they each have their own exclusive games. They obviously play into certain genres, but when you look at it, they have to face them off against each other.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo and Forza are one of those that have been battling for years.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're looking for that kind of game, those are the games you're going to look at in terms of what console you get. If they drop Forza entirely, they're basically saying, just go buy a PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously other racing games on there. You can get such a Corsa on the console. But
if you're looking for,
but it's not the same.
If you're looking for that specific experience, though, it is Forza and Gran Turismo. And I dare say, probably to the majority of players, they're only looking at that more casual game.
Yeah.
They might want a, air quotes, serious racing game, but to them that is a serious racing game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like certainly for the more casual players out there, or the more casual gamers, people that just want to stick on a game and play, that's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be. That's why I don't think they will drop Forza, even if they shake up the team entirely. I think they'll continue trying to make it work, even if it's with the next installment, just so they can continue to compete with PlayStation.
See, there's the thing though. The whole point of this new Forza Motorsport, the reason why it's called Forza Motorsport, not Forza Motorsport 8, was this was meant to be it. This was meant to be the next installment for the next 10 years. It's a live service game.
Yeah.
The whole point of this installation was to update it as time goes on, which is the really big problem. If it wasn't another installation, we could probably wait 2-3 years and see if they can better themselves in 2-3 years' time. But
thing is, though, they said exactly the same thing when Halo Infinite came out. Halo Infinite came out and they went, this is going to be the Halo game for the next 10 years. We'll just release new campaign DLC for it, so you've still got that single player experience. we'll produce all this multiplayer content, basically promising the same things as Forza, right?
Yeah.
And then very recent, I don't know when exactly, I might be able to look it up, but very recently they have announced that they are done with their major content updates for Halo Infinite. They'll obviously do minor things, they'll do bug fixes and stuff, but they're done with the major content updates. This is their last season of online content. So, the 10 years we were supposed to have Halo Infinite for, this was supposed to be the final Halo game almost. Well, it's not. They're already going back on it. And I mean, how long has that been out? 2021. So it's been out for, what?
A couple of years.
15th of November, so a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
And they're already going back on that. I think maybe at Xbox, there was this idea that they could have these games that they go, oh, no, that's it. We'll just keep updating it and keep pushing content to it for X amount of years. And they're probably realising actually that doesn't work. Or not as well as they had intended it to.
Yeah, I think it depends on the game. Some games work, some games don't. I mean, for a racing game, I don't mind, because, I mean, for content updates, all it really is when new cars come out, add some new cars. Because there are loads in the world to add. Even if they were adding old ones. The same with tracks. You know, tracks in real life, they have some updates. They change stuff, you know. I think the last few years, Spa-Francorchamps has had some updates for its runoffs. Safer runoffs, for example, they've put in IRL, which aren't all reflected in the games at the moment, but they eventually will do. You know, those sort of ones. And, you know, they do pride themselves in the details, which reminds me, the new Daytona track, they've done the wrong pit lane. They've put some, like, the pit lane's really long. It goes all the way around. Obviously, it's a dual. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Daytona. But,
I think I've driven it before, but probably a while ago.
So Daytona actually has two variants. It's a stock car NASCAR circuit, so the turn left, but it also has a road car circuit intertwined, which incorporates some of the NASCAR bankings. So if we're talking about the road circuit rather than the NASCAR circuit or the stock car circuit, the pit lane's really long and it goes round, and they've blocked off part of it and made their own pit exit with some tire walls. And everyone's saying, you pride yourself in all these details, but you've walled it off. And there's a reason why the pit lane doesn't exit there. Because it's dangerous.
Someone didn't do their research very well.
I don't understand that decision. But what baffles me is all the fans for Forza Motorsport have been looking forward to Forza Motorsport for the last 6 years. They've had 6 years, but what the hell have Turn 10 been doing for the last 6 years to make it flop this far for its AI, its single player, its penalty system, its models, whatever it is? What the hell have they actually been doing for the last 6 years? Because not all the models have been built from the ground up and made again.
Yeah.
So I ask you, Turn 10, what actually have you been doing for 6 years?
Oh, I like questions to developers.
Because your community ain't happy, my friend.
Oh, I love directing our questions to the developers.
I wanted a game where I could pick up a controller or a wheel to play a track racer. That's all I wanted. Yeah. I have Assetto Corsa, I have Automobilista 2, all those proper sims on my PC, yes. And I like them. Yeah. And that's only when I want to set on my wheel. But when I want to set up a controller, well, I don't tend to play those games with a controller because, you know, they're not built for a controller, they're built for a wheel.
Yeah,
Forza,
of course.
Built for a wheel. But, hey, you know, I just wanted to fill that little gap. Oh, I want to do some truck racing. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to play Forza Motorsport on my controller. Yeah, well, if you're on PC, there are better racers out there. Can tell you that much. It's inevitable downfall is coming, and I do hope they do listen to the community and pick themselves up, but it might be too late. I don't know. It has, I mean, the numbers I've picked up after the update, but still, it's a little bit meh.
Time will tell. Time will tell how that goes.
Yeah. And I think that's going to do it for us in January, I think.
Righty.
Now, last month we mentioned there might be some changes. Now, if you're a regular on the podcast, you'll know there hasn't been that many changes. We've kept the structure relatively the same. If you are on YouTube, however, you have seen a bit of a freshen up for visuals. I hope you like it, by the way. If you're on Spotify, this means absolutely nothing for you, unfortunately.
If you're on Spotify, go watch the video on the YouTubes. And you'll see, you will see our faces. Maybe don't do that.
Yeah, it depends if you want to see us or not. That's really up to you. Anyway, thank you very much for listening or watching, whatever platform you are on, to us. Our next podcast is going to be... What did I say there? I meant to say podcast. I put some letters there that weren't meant to be. Bit like Polish. Scrum some letters together. That'll do.
Made up language.
Let's not get into that.
That's a rant for another podcast.
We leave that for Tuesdays.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, trucking. In Euro truck. Anyway, next podcast, 28th of February, is when it's going to be planned. If you have enjoyed it, give us a follow, give us a rating and a review of whatever you're on. Obviously, this goes out on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. This goes out on Amazon, and it goes on Spotify, and obviously the YouTube. Talking of YouTube, we have an official Fandoms podcast YouTube for you. By the time you're watching this, listening to this, it'll be all operational with all the previously done podcasts. I've had some issues with the account, but we're past that now. We're past it. We're okay.
Is it all solved now?
Yeah, it wouldn't log me in.
Okay.
It now can log me in, which was good. So you'll find all that, and we might even be putting some of the podcast elements into some YouTube shorts for you as well. So have a go at watching those if you want to. You can stay up to the podcast by following our socials. We also have a new Instagram account as well, so we'll be posting on that from updates from that. But if you want to find us personally, we're found on Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. All links are going to be in the description below. I can be found through the tag of Maverick RNG, and Joe can be found through FamilarForce. On the YouTube, you'll have to add the at the start.
That's me.
But until next time, we'll see you on the next one.
On the Fandom's Edge.